Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our shirim on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom on the Ijarabba, and we're continuing with the Avodah that Rabbi Shimon is being masbir of why he's awakening the koyach within the Chavraya Kadisha in this particular point where there's no longer the restrictions that block a person from entering in to take a role in the uncovering of the light through Pnimiyas HaTorah. He's announcing that the reason for this is because Machatzte Chakla Ze'irin Inun Va'anan B'Shuli Akarma, that the threshers of the field, those who have taken upon themselves the real work of descending down into concealment. And again, the only concealment that a person has the ability of encountering is the concealment of their own mind. And it's the concealment of their own mind that reflects itself upon the concealment of Metzias. And the concealment in Metzias is a reflection of the concealment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed in Metzias. Memela, any element of concealment that we experience is ultimately a reflection of the general concept of concealment, and that's rooted in the decision that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to reveal himself by way of concealment. Those are the tikkunim that Hashem has to conceal himself in order to reveal himself. But to do the avodah for the sake of the Shekhinah means to draw down the lights of Kedusha, draw down the lights of revelation into the places of concealment in such a way that it's not going to be caught by concealment itself. It's rather going to be done privately and through the gradations of one's own mind in the individual process with friends, with the Chavraya Kadisha, with the Rebbe, with the Tzaddik, and through that humbly entering into the avodah of Machatz Chakla, and it stands on the shoulders of each and every person to be able to do this, to be makabel upon themselves to serve for the sake of the Shekhinah, not for their spiritual benefits, as we saw from the Ramchal, but that's not the derech of Chasidus. Avada, the avodah, is not to work specifically for the physical pleasures or the promise of reward. But even the notion of spiritual refinement is still not the ikr nakuda in avoda. The ikr nakuda in avoda is to do it because Hakadosh Baruch Hu decided that He wanted to send our neshamos down into this world to uncover concealment and to reveal the clarity and the revelation of Hakadosh Baruch Hu's light within the place that appears to be devoid of it. That is the avoda of the neshama in this world, and the neshama has to take upon itself the willingness to do this for the sake of the Shekhinah. And when a person decides to do it for the sake of Shekhinah, then they have the ability of going up beyond the concealment and receiving the shefa, receiving the illumination of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, which is Emunah, which is Yediyah, which is Das Elyon and Das Tachton, which are Megala, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and everything. That is the schar itself. And it's this avodah being the Machatz Chakla and being one of the chavraya of the yeshiva of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who enter into these secrets. This is mamish the derech amiti la'asois zahatikun, to go and do it for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and v'hu davar shalimid lahem rashbi kamesha kasav lacha ba'oid be'ezras Hashem. And the Ramchal is beginning to explain to us the path that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is teaching his Talmidim, is teaching each and every one of us who wants to walk along the path of Rabbi Shimon. Now, the question is, prior to understanding the concealment, we saw earlier that the time of Rabbi Shimon was a time of great illumination. It was a time where the secrets of Torah were revealed in such a way that one person would say to the other, Pasach picha v'yir dvarecha, open up your mouth and allow your words to illuminate the world, because the concealment was reduced to such a degree that the neshama was ready to express itself immediately. So we find that on the one hand, it's this time of great revelation. On the other hand, it's a time of minimal engagement with the revelation because of the responsibility and the self-sacrifice for Amunah that it takes in order to enter into the yeshiva Arashbi. And Zakt the Heilige Ramchal, and we're on Daf Nun Gimel in Adir BaMarom. Ubechlal ha'inyan hu. Generally speaking, what's the inyan? What's the way of entering in to the chambers of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? What's the way of becoming one of the Machatz Chakla, being the threshers of the field, the gardeners in the field, which is the sadeh, which is the place that the Shekhinah reveals itself, the outside of the world that needs to be transformed into the inside with comfort and pnimius. The general principle is as follows: Ki ha'avir shel ha'olam hazeh hu ha'av. Av with an ayin. That when it comes to the air of this world, we have to pay attention to the fact that the air of this world is a thickened air. It's an air that has been drawn down from places of refinement, and it has grown polluted into the thickness and the congealment of itself. It's no longer the air of Gan Eden, but rather it's the air of this world. Shelahagia hashefa el ha'adam hayoshev bo hu hasakana shezacharnu. And the issue is not so much what Hashem is sending down from below, from above. And it's not so much our capacity to receive it from below, because the neshama is always activated. What becomes the distortion is the air that separates the two, the Welt, the world. the concealment of the world, the air of the world, which can become suffocating, it's that air which blocks the shefa that's coming from above and the reception that can take place down below. That's where the sakana is. That's where the sakana of the sitra achra taking from that, and the shefa adding to a sense of more concealment rather than adding to more revelation. Ach, says Rashbi, but yesh derech echad shemispashet me avir hagan eden betoch ha'avir hazeh v'ha'adam yekabel mitoch ha'avir hahu v'sham in sakana. And what Rabbi Shimon is, what the Ramchal is describing is something that each and every one of us have to believe in fundamentally at each moment of our lives. In spite of the fact that the air of this world is thickened, in spite of the fact that the air of this world is suffocating, nevertheless, there is a path, a singular path through which the air of Gan Eden extends itself outward and downwards into the air of this world, and the individual is capable of receiving from that air of Gan Eden within the air of this world. And in that place of drawing the light of the air of Gan Eden into the air of this world, in that place, there's no sakana of receiving the influx of light from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our ability to actively and fully embrace what Panimiya Torah is telling us, the calmness and the goodness and the takifus and the confidence and the knowledge of the goodness that will be revealed even in the places that it doesn't appear to be possible. That takifus hadas, that bitachon, that strength that is necessary to be one of the chavraya of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in order to be makabel the tikkunim that need to be performed. And it's specifically because it's an eis lasos la'Hashem hifru saresecha. We have the ability to strengthen ourselves specifically in a time of weakness. The first step is recognizing that the air of this world is polluted. It's no longer the air of Gan Eden. We're sent into an air that is constricted, and where the breath that we breathe in is not strong enough to provide us with the sustenance and the calmness that we want. The entrance into the desire for more and more people to learn how to breathe properly and to get back to the basic health of natural breathing and belly breathing, etc., is an expression to a certain degree of the attempt to draw down the Avir of Gan Eden once again into the Avir of this world. Because when we become aware of the suffocating nature of the Avir of this world, which is all of the concealment and the doubts and all of the things that make it so thick, then the only option that we have is to draw down these pockets of air, these columns of air from Gan Eden itself. Because as the Ramchal is going to be showing us over and over and over, and as all of our tzaddikim are always coming to show us, even though we're no longer in Gan Eden, even though Gan Eden is no longer here, we're still in Gan Eden, and Gan Eden is still here. And it's a question of accessibility and hasaga and drawing it down into revelation and graspability. But it's not that it's not there, it's just that we have to be mezachich and be mevar and clarify it to reveal it. So we have to draw that air down into the air that we breathe. Once a person has done that, Mevi Hashefa Sheyakabel Ba'avir Hahu El Ha'avir Hazeh Umeir Kol Ha'olam. And when a person is cultivated within their own minds, within their accessibility of their neshama, an access point into the Avir of Gan Eden, that refined light of spiritual purity and goodness that maintains its simplicity in spite of the complications, we draw it back down into the air of complications, we draw it back down into the avir of this world, and by way of going up and drawing down from above, down into the concealment below, we are meir kol ha'olam. We have the ability of illuminating the entirety of the world. Kivon shenitul sham kvar amarti harehu shamor. Because as Ramchal said, I already told you, if the human being has the capacity of escaping that concealment where the Sitra Achra has the accessibility to the Shefa, which is still where we think that the Sitra Achra is something real and not simply a tool of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so then there's a sakana, because then a person is actually dealing with concealment. But when a person exits that place and enters into the place of the Avodas HaSadeh, and they find that innermost place of mikvah, the Tevas Noach, the Keshet, that awareness of the Ima that's yored down the mata in case of emergency break glass to give us this pocket of air that we can breathe for one more second in. So we're no longer in danger because the Sitra Achra doesn't have a possibility to enter into that place, because be'emes, that place is an impossible place. It's in your miklat, like we said. It's a ha'ara that comes from above that theoretically shouldn't be coming from above. So the Sitra Achra is not even aware of it. And so it's about drawing down these pockets of air, these calm pockets of air for ourselves that protect us from the sakana. And this is why we're going to see that Rabbi Shimon and his Chavraya would always walk along the paths. They would always walk along the paths in the air of Eretz Yisrael to literally, as we're going to see, there is a meditative practice. There's a meditative practice that the Baal HaSulam had sitting in front of him when he wrote the Bir HaSulam on the Zohar HaKadosh, because the Bir HaSulam is a Hamshacha from the lights of the Ramchal. It's also a Hamshacha from the lights of the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Tanya. It's also a Hamshacha from the Gra, but it's also a Hamshacha from the Ramchal most explicitly. Implicitly, the Baal HaSulam is Hamshach of the Baal Shem Tov and the Gra. explicitly is Hamshach of the Ramchal, in addition to whatever it was that his specific neshama was capable of bringing down. But because the light has been taken from there, so we have the ability to elevate the world, to fix everything, to create that place of calmness within ourselves. And that's why it was all about walking along the path, breathing the air. And this is what it means in the Zohar Kadosh and Parshas Emor. B'yoymed Rabbi Shimon have Barnash Amar lechavraya pasach pichu ve'ya'ir dvarecha. Then in the days of Rabbi Shimon, meaning those who lived within the circle of Rabbi Shimon, within the pockets of air that Rabbi Shimon was drawing down, that gave comfort from within the concealment of the polluted air of this world, in that place where there was no longer a sakana, where we could be confident with the utilization of Pnimiyas HaTorah to fix everything, to fix our broken souls and our broken bodies. So at that place, one can say to another person, Pasach bicha ve'ir dvarecha, naturally, the secrets, the words were going to illuminate the world, create an opening. The opening has been created. The opening has been created in this world to draw down the air of Gan Eden. And once that opening has been created, there's an illumination upon the path. All of the concern that we have when we deal with Pnimiyas HaTorah is when we're caught up with the air of this world, which causes concealment. But being makusher to the tzaddik, and anybody who's makusher to the tzaddik knows the difference of the air near the tzaddik and the air that one is breathing when they're not connected to the tzaddik, that there's a menuchas emes sha'ater at seba that one draws down when they're standing near a tzaddik yisod olam. And each and every yid is a tzaddik yisod olam, and each and every yid has the capacity of breathing down the air of Gan Eden and to be mamshech the avirin and to be matahir the avirin, which is one of the ikar avodas in our generation. That because they were connected to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there was no sakana because they were drawing down this hidden air, this hidden column of air from Gan Eden. It wasn't only Rashbi at that point who knew the secret. Rashbi knew it the best. Rashi knew the technique. Rashbi knew how to immediately uncover that technological light of the air of Gan Eden to allow it to be drawn down into the place that we find ourselves in, which is the secret of the Teva, which is the secret of, in case of emergency, break glass, to create kind of this pocket of air, a pocket of light that can illuminate the darkness at night. Everybody knew about it, not as well as Rashbi. But even the little that people knew, the whole world didn't know the secret. There were many people who knew the secret, but not everybody knew it like Rashbi. And even those who knew it, they only knew a little bit. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was saying that they're still considered small in number. There's not a lot of them. Why? Because in accordance with the shefa that is available to the human being, every single person should be able to do this. As we know, the Helika Kamarna wanted that children should be learning Zohar, that children should be making Yichudim, that Balei Tshuva should be making Yichudim, as that Rizal said. There's machlokas sometimes amongst the tzaddikim. Sometimes it seems from the Toldos Yaakov Yosef that in order to be miyachid yichudim, in order to contemplate the letters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, to draw down comfort within the mind, and to spend the time and take the patience necessary to contemplate the shape of the letters and to become aware of the fact that the irreducibility of the letters are ultimately the greatest vessel through which the human mind can comprehend the divine expression of infinity meeting the finite, these engravings of the letters, which means that we have to have the messiness and we have to have the patience to pay attention to the letters that we're reading and to enter into the letters, as the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh taught. So on the one hand, the Toldos Yaakov Yosef said that you have to be a tzaddik in order to be miyachid yichud, and that it's not something everybody could do. But the Kamarna Rebbe would say that everybody, even children, the Arizal would give yichudim to Balei Tshuva, even when they were stuck in their chatayim, as we see from Shar Yichudim. So which is it? So when a person is mukusher to a tzaddik, when a person has his kashrus to the light of Rashbi, so because the tzaddik is able to be poiteach in the secret of kind of this opening of the air of Gan Eden, this hot spot, kavyachol, where the air of Gan Eden flows downwards for everybody to partake, anybody who's connected to that signal, so to speak, is drawing down the same shefa, and they have the ability of making the yichud. But if you're not, if you don't have that opening done, then it's like the Toldo says that you have to mamish be a tzaddik in order to be miyachid yichudim. And in this time, there were few tzaddikim, but there was Rashbi. So Rashbi was the biggest tzaddik. And everybody could have accessed through the light of Rashbi, which is why it was Pasach Pichu v'Irid Varecha. But at the same point, it was Machatz Techaklas Irinin. And quantitatively speaking, everybody else was doing it very small. Rashbi was doing a lot of work. V'teida shekol inyane haguzmos the beperak asvina. Baruch Hashem, we're learning the guzmos of Parak Asvina and the Gemaras of Rabbi Barbachan and the fifth parak of Baba Basra with the teachings of Rav Yitzchak Meyer Morgenstern Shlita the Amma Chachma. All of these guzmaos of the Maisim of Rabba Bar Chana and these languages also that the Ramchal is associating with the Lashon of the Zohar Kadosh and the Idra Rabbah as well, Va'achirim Keila, all of these kind of figures of speech and imaginative expressions and utilizing the imagination to kind of convey the secrets of what is trying to be described. And the Ramchal explains this very clearly in his drush and his biur on what Agadata is. Him kulam al zehaderach. All of the teachings of Chazal, especially when they seem strange to us, are in accordance with this hidden path, this secret path that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was trying to teach his Talmidim of how to draw down the light of Gan Eden into the mind and the consciousness of right now. And in spite of the fact that the consciousness of right now is suffocated to a certain degree, nevertheless, the ability to draw down that refined light of Gan Eden illuminates the suffocation of this air, and it gives a person the ability to breathe and to open up their minds and to open themselves up to Pnimiyas HaTorah. Shahaya mitra elahem leleches b'ma'aros ukiyotze, that the tzaddikim would teach one another to go, they would learn to go into hidden places, they would go to caves, they would go to the sea, and they would go from one air to another air, as Rabbeinu describes also the different forms of air which give birth to different forms of fruits. Each room has its own type of air. Each room has its own type of breath that's going to allow the person to be present in this moment, which is the Iker Tikkun, to be mezachich the ruach. As Rabbi Nachman says, Kishetush umisham tish when you leave from here and they ask you, what is it that you gained? What did you earn? Tell them it was breath. I'm going to spend time explaining later on the difference in these airs and the places that the Tanaim and the Amoraim would go to, why they found themselves in the deserts, why they found themselves by the sea, and what they were trying to do in those specific locations. And we also were going to learn the path in which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai taught his Chavraya Kadisha, a very specific and clear way in order to encounter the Hasaga in a real way. Because before Rashbi decided that it was time to write these things down, before Rashbi realized that it was an Eis Lasos Lashem Hifr Sarasecha, and that it was for everybody to now understand these secrets, there were very few people who knew the path of Rashbi. And that even those who know how to do what I do, says Rashbi, are as if they're hiding in the corner, Beshule Karma, in the corner of the vineyard. So suddenly we've shifted from talking about a Sadeh, the field of the Mchatz Chakla, where there's very few threshers, and then we've seen that the threshers who are actually available are the ones who are huddled over and hiding in the corner of the kerem. So we see a shift. We see from a sadeh to a kerem. Nikra kerem. When the Shechina Kadisha, when the sadeh, when the sadeh which appears desolate and has thistle and overgrowth and thorns, when that gets refined, then it gets threshed out properly and it gets cleansed and it gets planted and all of the processes of irrigation are set up properly. So the goal is to transform the sadeh into a kerem, to allow it to be a field that is blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be megala the yayin ha-mesameach, to be megala the yayin ha-meshumer ba'anav misheshis me'bereshis, what Noach HaTzadik wanted to do after he came out to plant the new Gan Eden. Why is the Shechina Kadisha, when it's in a state of refinement, referred to or compared to as a vineyard? Because a vineyard has overgrowth together where the vines are growing over one another and they're intermingling with one another, but nevertheless it becomes like veins that give birth to something that will be expressed at the end. Instead of being the kates v'dardor and the overgrowth and the thicket and the thistle that conceals the sadeh, Asher Baruch Hashem, when we untangle and we reconnect and we realign all of the different pathways, so that's the secret of the kerem, where all of the different vines are nitlim b'shoirish k'mei kerem mamish. V'hinei tzarich lahagia el ze hakerem laharis b'chol ha'makoymes b'ma'oris gedolim v'ha'ikarim. And the Ramchal is explaining to us what the path in front of us is going to be when we clear out the field and we begin to prepare it to become a kerem. So there's so much contemplation that is necessary in order to properly grasp it. There's so much contemplation necessary in order to reveal all of the different places in which the lights need to be revealed and what is essential and what is inessential, and to contemplate what is needed in order to gain this particular light. But those who found themselves in this world trying to be Megala, this path prior to Rashbi coming into the world, Before Rashbi, those who undertook this process were still standing b'shulei hakerem. It was not popularized. It was not allowed yet because the threat of concealment was too strong. It was Rashbi who came along to democratize or to open up this path for everybody. Shuba madrigas atachtonos, when it's still very little, and when there's very few people who are engaged in this process of rectification, it's still as if it's operating at a lower level. And the reason for this, is Ramchal, is that they still had not yet developed the process of entering inwards. So that's the beer on the Lashon of the Zohar Kadosh, and the threshers of the field are few, and those who operate, those who are around, who are engaged in the proper work, who are actually revealing the sadeh being transformed into a kerem. There's very few of them, and they find themselves huddled over in the corner. Again, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai announcing that it's time for every person to have the confidence to do this. And even those who are standing in the corner, Zak the Heilige Zohar Kadosh, Loi ashkachin v'lo yadin la'anhu eser azlim kamadiyos. Loi ishkachin, they're not paying attention properly. They don't have the awareness or the das to understand, and they don't know which the right direction is, which direction they need to go. Lo ishkachin lo yodin la'anhu eser azlin kamadios. Zokt the Heilige Ramchal. That they're not paying attention, that they're not being mashkiach on what needs to be done, and they also don't know what needs to be done. Hinekosov, the pasuk says, "Maskil al davar yimsatov." Somebody who understands something, somebody who spends time contemplating something, will ultimately come to find goodness. V'zeh klal gadol b'Torah, says the Ramchal. The klal gadol b'Torah is yagata v'lo matzata al ta'amin. Without effort, finding is meaningless. There is an effort that precedes knowledge. And that effort is not simply some struggle that needs to be overcome. And if we can shorten it to the greatest degree possible, then all the better. The Yagiyah is a fundamental necessity in the process of uncovering the Torah afterwards. There is a Yagiyah that is the Segula itself, to be Megala on the ability of the human being to uncover the process of Yagiyah in order to come to the secret of Metzia, which is Menucha. But without the Yagiyah, without undergoing the process of the Yagiyah, loy matzata, a person hasn't found anything. Person hasn't found anything. But on the same point, Yagata v'le matzata al ta'amin. But there's a condition. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Yagata v'le matzata al ta'amin. But because we know that you can't earn anything without Yagia, the opposite is true as well. Yagata v'loy matzata al ta'amin. Once a person has put Yagia in, they no longer can say that they haven't gained anything, because it's within the Yagia itself that a person gains what they're searching for. And the gain that comes after the Yagia is a secondary gift. That's a Tchilas ha'avoda v'sofa matana, like the Ramchal says in Parak Chafvav in Mesil Sisharim. Yagata v'lei matzata al ta'amin. If you put effort in and you don't find, you're not to be believed, because in truth, effort itself bears the fruit of what a person is coming to try and find. This is the pshat in the pasuk, maskil al davar yimtzatov. Someone who tries and contemplates something will find something good. Ki ha'oros be'emesem na'elamim. The lights, like we said, are concealed. The lights are always there. The Ni'imus HaElyon is always Shaifim Ilamala, always Shaifim Ilamala. But the Kalim, to be massing them, are Mustar, and there's the Avoid of the Bira that has to take place, and therefore those lights remain concealed within the concealment of this world, so as the light should not enter into concealment. Ach, Beroiv HaSkala Aleihem. But through the contemplation of them, and through coming to understand the lights, and through coming to contemplate the lights, and to be mishta'asheh with the lights, the haskala of the lights, they slowly but surely descend downwards, and they come closer to us, tamid kiruv achar kiruv, perpetually coming closer and closer through the haskala, through the yagia, through the attempt to contemplate the divine wisdom of the world and the unity of all things, specifically within the middle period that appears to be devoid of unity, which is wedged between the beginning of clarity and the end of clarity, which is the emtza. That's the place that we have to find through haskala, the hiskarvas ha'oires tamid kiruv achar kiruv. V'hinei those who were engaged in the process of drawing down these lights through their haskala, through contemplation or trying, they didn't even have the real contemplation. So they were not only standing in the corner of the field of the kerem, deloy nidabam Velo nedabim lahem, v'lo atzamu koyach laleches lifnim, meaning they didn't have the koyach, they didn't have the confidence, they didn't have the strength to move inwards because they didn't feel worthy of that. Ki ramu hamaoros, because the lights appeared to be too lofty. This is the general problem with Pnimiyas HaTorah. A person doesn't have the tekifa sadas and the strength of character because they don't believe in themselves enough, and they feel that it's only for the tzaddikim. But when a person comes and starts learning Pnimiyas HaTorah, they come to find, you're right, it's only for the tzaddikim, but I'm makusha to the tzaddikim and I am a tzaddik. And once a person is makusha to the tzaddikim and they uncover the nikud of tzaddik within themselves, they realize that, oh, that avodah was for me all along as well. But prior to that, prior to the Gili of Rashbi, they felt it's too lofty for me. It's not for me. But the only reason that they didn't develop and cultivate that inner spiritual confidence to move inwards is because they didn't truly understand the mission. They did not open their eyes to pay attention to the tikkunim of the Shechina, which are the tikkunim of Emunah, which are the lowest tikkunim, which are the highest tikkunim, at the very same moment as the tikkunim of coming to realize that even the hastara is a gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in fact the hastara is the most fundamental gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu because it's specifically from within the hastara that will come to be megala the yichud of the rosh and the sof, to be megala how the beginning and the end are unified through the impossibility of the middle, which seems to separate the two of them, being revealed retroactively every moment of our lives, that it's in fact part and parcel of that flow of unity from the beginning to the end, to reveal how echad yachid umiyuchad haya hoy v'viyeh. It's because they're not paying attention to the tikkunim of the Shechina, hiroi, l'mashet tzarich l'chol tzad. We have to look at the tzadim. We have to look at each corner. We have to look at each and everything which appears to be part of our avodah. We have to look at every part of the avodah. There's no part of the avodah that should remain without attention. They're not paying attention and they don't know, and therefore they don't know the direction that has to be that they have to go in. And as a result of not knowing the destination, I don't know anything. But if only I knew the destination, then the pathways to get to that destination would be illuminated in front of me. Meaning to say, they're not paying attention. As a result of this, the Iker Nakuda of Avodah is not revealed to a person. So if a person thinks the Iker Nakuda of Avodah is Hasaga and to become a tzaddik or a Makubal, so then Avodah it's not going to work out. But if we uncover the fact that our generation's Avodah is Emuna, and Derech Hamuna Bacharti, so then Avodah, if I knew what the destination was, if I knew how close it was at hand, that Kikarov Hadavar Elechem Oid, so then I would know exactly what needs to be done. The Tamsis calls Inyan. And to summarize the quintessence of this point, the greatest tikkun that is necessary, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is coming to illuminate within the world, learning how to cut through the thicket and the overgrowth and the confusion and the stipulations and all of the post-trauma that block us from properly entering in to the kerem, which is the illumination of the Shechina Kadisha, which is the recognition that each and every person is the tzaddik that has one singular task in front of them, which is Emunah kolzos. And through Emunah, we're matakin alts, and we draw down the light of Gan Eden. That's the Indian of the Ketzira. When I cut through the concealment, the light is illuminating. I don't have to think that the avoid is too hard. I don't have to cultivate the lights. The lights are already cultivated. The lights were never to be cultivated by me. The lights come from above, perpetually, endlessly. The only thing that needs to be done is cutting through the thicket of concealment of the mind, of the heart, of the body, of metzius, of wherever it is that a person finds themselves in shlichus in this world. But the only person who's capable of doing this is someone who has taken upon themselves the work of the Shechina Kadosha, the work of the Shechina, which is the ability to do the work for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To do the work for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the sake of revealing more and more clarity in this world. More and more clarity, not for my own spiritual benefit, not for my own physical benefit, but ultimately for the sake of that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be revealed in this Welt, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu created such a concealed place, because the more concealment, the more opportunity for revelation, and my only job is to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this place, and I have to have Amunah, that's my only job, and that's where the tikkun is going to come from. And then a person begins to walk along the pathways. Ashrei tamimei darech haholchim b'toras Hashem. And this is what I've explained to you. Perhaps this week, but maybe next week, maybe in between, we'll have another shir. But the next chelik of the Zohar is going to be now Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai sitting with the Talmidim after describing what the condition was, beginning to gather them together for their strength. That's what we're going to see is Kanshu Chavraya, the Chavraya of Rabbi Shimon, the 10 Talmidim of Rabbi Shimon, all gathered together, the Gabe Idra. They entered into the Idra. They entered into this granary, into this place in the northern hills of Eretz Yisrael with a vision of the sky. Mulubashin, dressed with all of the armor necessary. Sharian, Saife, Rumcha b'yodchen, Izdarach Zuru b'teichunaychen. They all gathered together with all of their tikkunim. Be'ita, b'chachmasa, b'suchlanusa, b'daisa, b'chayka diyadin, b'raglan. With every element of the body, with all of the spheros, with all of the koyach. Amlichu laichu laman de b'rishusei chayev moisa. And they gathered together in the rishus of He who holds the light of life and the light of death together, which is the or of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the chayo elamim. And they began to prepare to make the tikkunim necessary to enter into the next stage of Emunah Kitov Be'ezras Hashem.